Hello everyone on this wet, cloudy, rainy Friday in my little hamlet. I am Lucy, and this is the Seaside Tarot channel, and welcome to all those who haven't been here before, and welcome back to all those who have. Now today I'm going to do a tag that was floating around 2 years ago, and I never had a channel then, so I thought I always wanted to do it, and so I thought I'm going to resurrect that tag called Tarot Collector, and I'm going to show you my answers to the prompts that Moon Baby Brett created in 2020, I think it was, or 2021. Anyway, it was fun, and it was fun to watch. So I hope you enjoy my selection, and I hope Brant was watching. So here we go. So the first prompt is my most expensive deck. So you could take that either that it's the most expensive to buy now, or was the most expensive that I paid for a deck. So I'm going to use the one that the most I've paid for a deck, and that was for a Thoth deck. This is what they call a gold box deck, because it's in a gold box, and it has pale blue borders. And this one is distributed by Samuel Weiser. So this is a 1972 deck. I've sort of worked out this is a 1972 deck. Sorry, 1972 deck. A Llewellyn deck, gold box deck, was printed in 1969, and they're even rarer than the Samuel Weiser. So when I saw this on eBay going for auction and nobody else was bidding, I scored it for a very reasonable price, because they can be quite hexy, these decks. And there's the magus. The actual deck titles are all being stamped with trumps. So if you haven't seen a Thoth deck in its original format, this is one. So I was very fortunate to get this one, and it's in my special box of all my 1970 decks, and I've yet to really appreciate Thoth yet. I have quite a few Thoth decks that are more modern, but I haven't used this one. I'll just put it back in order. So that's my most expensive deck. I didn't pay an exorbitant amount for it, but it was pricey enough for me, but I still bought it. Alright, so that's my most expensive deck. My least expensive deck, which I've seen them go for sort of a big box. I've seen them go for a lot of money, and I've seen them go for relatively cheaply. It just depends on the knowledge of the seller and who's buying. I bought this for $5, so I was very fortunate, because it's out of print and the box is splitting. The box is splitting, but I really like it, and I have used it quite a bit. It has a different voice. It's by the same people who created the fairy oracle as well. So this is by Brian and Wendy Froud, but it has a different voice. It's more blunt, I found, more blunt than the fairy deck. And I was very fortunate to get it for $5 because it's in a pristine condition. And I had the Brian Froud fairy deck since 2001. I think I got one of the first editions. And I bought two decks, one for my sister and one for me. And my sister, it frightened my sister, and she didn't take it back with her to England when she came home at Christmas. So this is the Heart of the Fairies. I must use it again. I must get out all my oracle decks and use them again. Not oracle, Celtic decks. Get my Celtic decks out and use them again. So that's the Heart of the Fairies, and the guidebook is as good as the Fairies guidebook because Brian Froud was involved. And this is about life and relationships. So if you ever get a chance to own one of those, I highly recommend it. Alright, so next prompt. Next prompt is the deck collectors want that's in my collection and they want in their collection. So I've got quite a few decks that have been sought after by many people, and but my pride in place would have to be my Slow Holler. This deck is much sought after, rarely comes up on eBay, and if you're really lucky you can source it for not very much, but on eBay it can go for up to 2,000 Australian dollars. And you might say, why is that? Well, it's a collective tarot deck, and it's in colors of red, gold and black and white, which makes it in sync with each other, so you don't really notice that it's a collective collaboration. And they're not going to print it again. I think it was just a one-off print, and the guidebook is excellent. For me, a deck is top-notch when the guidebook is good. Particularly when it's pips. So this is the Slow Holler, everyone. And I was very fortunate to get this for a very, very reasonable price. When it was starting to go up in dollars, I got it for about 50, I think. So as you can see, you do need the guidebook. You do need the guidebook, but the guidebook is excellent. It's only little, but it's full of wisdom. So this is the Slow Holler, and my deck is in pristine condition as well, so I'm very fortunate. Sometimes I think, oh, I must sell that, I'm not using it, and then I think, no, I'd never get it again. So it's got the meaning of the deck, reverse meaning of the deck on 2 pages, but that's enough to give you an overview of what the artists were thinking when they created this deck. And it doesn't come in a box, it just comes with this tarot cloth. And so if you see it in a box, you know it's a fake, unless someone's deliberately created a box for it. I know some creators, some members of the community do create tarot boxes. Alright, so the next prompt is the strangest deck in my collection. Well, that'd have to go to this one, The Grim Tarot by Ian Miller. And this was a Kickstarter, and Ian Miller was an illustrator for Lord of the Rings, and you can see some of his images. Some of his images are some of the orcs out of Lord of the Rings. So some are lovely, like the Empress, but some are really weird. Here's the Hermit. I'll hold it up a bit closer for you. There's the Hermit, Wheel of Fortune, and you can see gruesome, oh, the Magician. So this is a weird deck. And I think only 1,000 decks were created. And there was an artistic book, art book that went with this, but I never bought it, unfortunately. I wasn't into collecting properly at that stage when I backed this. So I regret not getting the art book. So there's the world. There's two of the world. There's two of some of the cards. You can choose which ones you want to use. But I don't use this deck. It's a bit too weird for me. So there's another Magician. Another Fool. See, there's two Fools. The Dark Lord. That's a beautiful dragon. And he's named the suits different names, like Ace of Chaos, I think, is the swords. Have a look. You really need to know your systems, because that's the Three of Wands. Three of Wands. See how weird it is? It'd have to be the weirdest deck. The Five of Wands. The Six of Swords. I have to go back through and try and work it all out. And I think the castles were pentacles. The Knave of Chaos, the Knight of Chaos, the Queen of Chaos, and the King of Chaos. And fish were the cups. There's the Four of Cups, 5, 6, 7, 8 of Cups. So it definitely has its own system, one that you could make up. Knave of Fish, Knight of Fish, Queen of Fish, King of Fish, and then the citadels of the pentacles. So yep, that is my strangest deck. I have a few strange decks, but that one would That one takes the cake. That's the Strangest. All right. Next prompt is my oldest deck, or the older. Well, I've got two. The oldest deck in my collection is this one, which is the Albano 8 1968. And the oldest deck that I've owned in my collection is the 1976 Spanish Tarot in this box. That's its original box. So I was given this in 1983. So I've had tarot decks since 1983. Shame I didn't start collecting a little bit earlier, instead of in 2018. Oh, I'd be a wealthy lady now. This is the Spanish Tarot. My sister gave me this. She must have known I'd be getting into tarot at some stage in my life. So in 1983, she gave me this deck, the Spanish Tarot. It's got lovely coloration. It's one of my favorite TDMs. And at the time, I was going through a hard time in life, and I tried to learn what the minors meant, because pip decks, 78 deck, what is it, 56 pip decks? No, that's not counting court, that's counting courts. It was hard to learn for me because I was busy working, looking after a small child, and didn't have time to sit down and study the tarot. So I used to just read off the paper guide, and I only used the majors, and that there's so many negative cards in the majors that it terrified me when I kept getting the Tower and the Devil, and the Death card kept coming up all the time. So I put it away for a number of years, and then in the 90s I bought an RWS, a Conway deck in the 90s, and then I progressed in the noughties to a Soshen, and then it was more Oracle, and it wasn't until I got to 2018 that I became a serious collector. Well, not a serious collector in that I have to have every version of every deck, Rider-Waite-Smith deck, but one of. So I have quite a few Rider-Waite-Smith decks, but this is the earliest one. This is the Albano 8 1968 version, and I was very lucky to get this. Again, reasonably cheap considering how much they are these days. And the reason I like this one is because the colors are more brighter and it's clearer. The images are clearer. The cardstock's nice, that nice old cardstock with the lovers with that purple. And in the modern Albano 8, the purples are grey. From memory, purples are grey, not as vivid as the colours that are in this deck. Look at the rainbow. Look at the purple in the Devil. Yeah, so I don't think you get the same coloration in the modern decks. Particularly, there was, see, the World has that purple as well, and the orange, lime green and purple. I haven't done a comparison with a modern deck and this one, but you can find comparisons on YouTube. Mindful Tarot has a very good comparison between the two versions, with this one and a modern one. See, look at that. I don't think the modern one, I think it's grey. I think it's more grey. So that's the Albano 8. That's my oldest deck in my collection, even older than the Thoth, and it's not going anywhere. So next prompt, my newest deck. I've had a few, couldn't work out which one was the newest. Oh, that's right, it was this one, and I've got a dedicated video to this deck. This is the Greek Goddess deck by Ellen Lorenzi Prince. This is her latest deck, and she did the Tower of the Crones and the Dark Goddess, and I think there's another deck she did as well, but this is the Greek Goddess that came out last month. So this is taking my time at the moment. So 2022. So this is a oops, again I'm too low. This is a lovely deck too, and I've been enjoying it. There's the aces. So she's called Arrows for wands, cups, swords, and grain for pentacles. And then she has the different Greek goddesses for each of the mages. There's Hecate, Dion, Rios, so I've been learning all the mythology of Greece at the moment. Thoroughly enjoy this deck. It's clean and it's simple, and it has some mystery about it as well, that you have to go and do a bit of research. I did a month, I did an oracle, goddess oracle challenge last year. Created a spread for each day of the week for 3 weeks, and that was fun. I would have liked this deck for that particular. There's Gaia, the world. Isn't that lovely? I would have liked this deck back then. 9 of arrows is the wands, 9 of grain is the pentacles. So it follows right away. 8 of arrows, and the book is just a little book, but it gives meaning behind each of the cards and the Greek myth of the goddess for each card. So that's been a nice deck to play with over the past month. Now, what's the next prompt? What's the next prompt? So I've done the oldest deck, my newest deck, the deck that started it all. So in 2018, or was it 2017, I retired and I needed a hobby. So what better hobby than to collect decks? I enjoy collecting decks. Particularly, this was my first, I'm just having a cup of tea. This was my first indie deck I bought from England. Up until then, I had a few mass market decks I bought from Book Depository, but this was my first indie deck, and when it came, it was all wrapped up so beautifully that I think I started to cry because it was so beautiful. It was such a beautiful deck. And from then on I haven't looked back. I've bought quite a few pretty decks since then. I should do a tag, my most beautiful indie deck, or my most beautiful artistic decks, because this is very artistic. This is by Radomil Boguslawski, and this is printed by Scarlet Imprint. And this, of course, is the Oculi Occultati Tarot, and it helped me to meet quite a few other friends from overseas who also was buying this deck at the same time. So we had something in common, and I've kept in touch with a lot of those friends over the years. So as you can see, this is very artistic. A lot of work went into this deck. That's the sun. That's the sun. The baby on the horse. It's quite big. It's quite big. So I hope I might just leave this down. See if you can see that. So in the majors, it's just black and white sketches. But quite detailed. There's the Chariot, the Devil, the Wheel, and the Hermit. Look at the Hermit. And Strength is beautiful. Look at Strength. So there's no titles in these cards, so you need to know right away. There's the Lovers, the Hierophant, and the Emperor. And the Empress. So each of the minors are, there's green, blue. So these are the leprechauns. I call them the leprechauns, the Irish folk. So there's the leprechauns, Queen, Pentacles, Ace of Pentacles, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it's definitely following right away. Is this not beautiful? The cups are mermen. Oh, there's the magician, and the wands are salamanders. See where the swords are. See the salamander. And then the swords are pink. Oh, there's death. I've got it all mixed up. So there's the 4 of swords, 3 of swords, they look like elves as well. the knight on a dolphin. Yep, so you need to know your right away for that because there's no titles on the card. So that was the deck that kicked it all off for me, and I started collecting artistic decks after that. Alright. The next prompt is, I'm missing one. My newest deck, the deck that started me collecting. The strangest deck, the least expensive, the deck other people want. And my favorite deck. I brought these out. I might have left a prompt out. This is the decks that other people might not have in their collection. So I've left another prompt out. So let's say this is prompt 8. This is the Subliminal Tarot. And I don't think too many people would have this one in their collection because there's only so many created. This is by Penelope Klein, who created a number of artistic decks that are now in print at Make Playing Cards, I think, like the Pen Tarot and I forget the other one. I know I was after it for a long time, but I have this one. So this one, it's just a majors only. Comes in this handmade paper. Beautiful paper. And I got this from Pen herself. And this was, I think it was 2018. 2018. She's not that old. Sorry, Pen. Subliminal Tarot. And this was number 42 of 150. So there's only 150 of these around from this particular version. And I think she did do another print after this one, because my friend in Ireland has it, or did have it. So there's the Sybil. Fool. So she's named some of the cards different names, like the Puppeteer is the Magician. The Shaman, it's the Hierophant. So if you look at these cards, you can see different things in the image. Each time I look, I can see different things. Like there's the horse in the Chariot, Strength. There's the Lion. There's a fish. There's little figures down here. There's a whale. A leopard. The Hermit. There's a figure there. Can you see? And his light, his lantern, and his walking cane. So this is the Subliminal Tarot by Penelope Klein. A very pretty deck, which I don't think too many people would have. The other deck I don't think too many people would have is this one. The Strange and Curious Foolishly Queenly Poetry Tarot. That's its title. Someone asked me once what the name of this deck was, so I told them, and they said, no, what's the name of this deck? And I said, The Strange and Curiously Foolish Queenly Poetry Tarot. The reason it's called that is for each card there's a poem, and the fool, she knows not where she goes, but free of heavenly wounds and woes. Keeps light as a child with hope-filled heart. Is a wondrous journey here to start. So that's the Fool, the poem of the Fool. So there's a poem for each of the majors, because it's only a majors deck. I did write to her and said, Kate Fensom, katefensom.com. I did write to her and ask her if she was going to do the 56 minors, and she said no way. So that was a short, blunt answer. So there's a poem for each one of these little, there's a fawn in each of the cards, and his journey through the majors. So there he is falling out of the tower, and there he is standing on the world, and there he is under the star, little unicorn, and Strength with a dragon. So it's a cute little deck, and the poems for each of the cards is lovely. I did do a write-up of the star in Hermit's Cave once. So this one is by Kate Fensom, and her website is www.katefensom.com. So they're decks that I don't think anybody else have in their collection, and so I've done my favorite deck at the moment is the Greek Goddess. So that's it, everybody. That's it. I've got a mess in front of me that I have to sort out. Thank you for watching, if you stayed to the end. Hope to do another one soon. Goodbye, everybody. Many blessings, Lucy.